In this episode, I talk about how long you should stick with something before you give it up altogether. Welcome to episode 71 of the Honest Entrepreneur Show. My name's Tom Ross, and let's get into it. Guys, it is pretty shitty, weird, hot, muggy weather here in the UK, and I am sick of it. We keep getting like little glimmers of sunshine and sun. Marco, I can see he's shaking his head. The man doesn't like hot weather, which confuses the hell out of me. He's from Venezuela, so I think he's like done with it. He's had a lifetime. I am from rainy old England, so sun for me is life. I love it. I miss it when it gets sunny. I literally bake myself with every possible ray I can because I don't know when I'm going to get it again. Sometimes it might be like 9 months until I get proper sun again. And I saw Casey Neistat post about this. I think he's similar, where he like gets depressed as hell by rain and he literally chases every ray of sun for that reason. So let me know in the comments, guys. Are you the same?
This question is from Lenine. In episode 49, you mentioned quickly pivoting if something isn't working. How long should you give a strategy to really assess the results? A few weeks? A quarter?
Hey Lenine, welcome back to the show. That is a very good and quite difficult question to answer because I'm in two minds about it, to be honest. I believe in pivoting pretty quickly. I think you should be quick and agile in how you do business as an entrepreneur and as a creative. I think that's a tremendous asset. On the other hand, I recognize it takes an ungodly amount of patience. So I'm going to use myself as an example here. I was talking to Marco just before we hit record on this, and I was telling him about the progress I've been making recently on my personal brand Instagram. And with that, I've stayed pretty true to like my message and putting out consistent value and similar content. But for about 2.5 years, maybe nearly 3 years, it took me that long to get my first 1,000 followers, which is nuts. And then in the last year, or 9 months even, I think, I've got like another 1,500. And I've got nearly 1,000 of that 1,500 in the last month. And in the last week, I've had, I don't know, 600 or 700 or something like that. So you can see it's starting to pick up. But this is something I've noticed time and time again with people. It takes so much patience, but when it does start to kick in, it's almost like an exponential hockey stick. And interesting exercise, if you go on Google Trends and search for Gary Vaynerchuk, you will see the same thing, where he basically plugged away for a decade, where he was relatively unknown for a long, long time, and it just very, very slowly crept up, and he might do a keynote or something that went a little bit viral in the early days, so he'd get an inflection point and then it would die back down. And honestly, it was just trickling along. And it's that early phase where 99% of people give up because they're like, oh, this is so exhausting, it's so much work. And if they don't truly love the journey, then it's madness, you just can't keep it up. It's like, I'm super busy every day, like responding to your amazing comments, putting out the show, recording the show, all of this work. I wouldn't do it without the patience and without loving the process. So for me, patience is so key, because if I completely pivoted or just gave it all up within 3 months or 6 months or a year even, there would be no payoff. And I'm only just starting to hopefully hockey stick a little bit. I want to speed that up, and I want that to keep going very, very rapidly. And I think that will happen. So if you watch like the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, I am hoping that I'm going to break out in a very positive way in my industry. But I had to put in work for years and years and years and years for that to happen. So patience is so, so key. But at the same time, I think you can be agile and adjust both on the micro and the macro level. So to explain what I mean, recently I've made some adjustments. I've tried some new forms of content. I've mixed up my marketing because I looked at stuff and I was like, that's not really working for me, so I'm going to try something over here. So I started employing these strategies. I equally move very fast sometimes. So I set up my website in an hour. I set up my Patreon in an hour. I have these little sprints where I'm like, I'm just going to get shit done, and I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to try something new. So it's kind of marrying like the very long-term patience and recognizing that this does take years to actually build a meaningful community, brand, reputation company, whatever it might be. That's going to take years of graft and work. But at the same time, within that, don't be naive. Like, if something is flopping, like literally no one cares whatsoever, or it's getting bad feedback or whatever, don't be afraid to try something else. And I realized they seem like kind of contradictory things. So, for example, when I was in the earlier phases, I could have looked at it and thought, well, no one's really caring, so I need to give this up and pivot and try something else. But actually, the truth was I was just earlier in that curve. It hadn't started to kind of inflect upwards yet. So it takes experience, you need to become attuned to like, which one is it? Is it that what you're doing maybe sucks, or it isn't good enough, or it doesn't have a good fit with your market? Or is it just that you need to be patient because you're much earlier in the journey? And even if it isn't quite good enough, I would say more often than not, like, persevere, keep going, but try and figure out the angles. So if you fundamentally are passionate about what you're doing, I think there very often is a way to make it viable. Let's say, I'm not sure who asked the question, Marco? Lenine, actually. Yeah, it was Lenine. Okay, so Lenine, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what work you do, but I presume you're a creative. So let's say you might be a letterer or an illustrator or a designer. It's unlikely, like, if you're super passionate about that, like, first of all, it's viable that can succeed. Like, if other people are a success doing it, you can be too. It's unlikely that if you're really passionate about that and that's you through and through, then that's going to change in the next few years. So that's great. That's going to hopefully give you the patience. That's going to let you enjoy the process. You're not trying to find a quick fix here. So if you haven't broken out yet, I would say you don't need to go and do a totally different career. You just need to get better and figure out the angles. Get better at learning marketing. Try different strategies. Do some business development. Think about distribution and how you're going to get in front of wider audiences. Get better at content marketing and producing better content and products and things of that nature. So yeah, my answer would be get the weird marriage of like extreme patience, but extreme agility and speed and kind of quick short-term pivots. I hope that helps. But if you need any further elaboration on that, hit me up, and same with everyone else in the comments. So on that note, question of the day. Did that answer make sense? Because normally I feel I'm able to give like more of a clear-cut answer. In this case, honestly, it's just like experience will kind of bring you clarity with this. There's no secret formula or like after 3.5 weeks, like that's exactly when you should give up on something. Some people keep going for 15 years and then get their breakout moment. Others get it much earlier through, luck or serendipity or whatever you want to call it. So there's no finite number. I would just ensure that you are thinking about bringing value to others. There's a viable market. There's a viable business there. You love the process. You love what you're doing. And just keep plugging away and realize it doesn't happen overnight. Hardly ever. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm really enjoying the YouTube show. If you are too, then be sure to hit the subscribe icon and tick the little bell to get notifications when I post new content on this platform.